It's so wonderful to have this panel here tonight to talk about this film. And I know that you're all probably kind of quite raw and fragile, but also kind of joyful, I think, as well, in terms of the film. So it's a pleasure to welcome out director John Crowley, everybody. Followed by Florence Pugh. Followed by writer of the film, Nick Payne, everyone. Yes! They're all a little bit fragile, I'm not going to lie, but they're all good. Listen, congratulations on this film. I've seen it a few times and I get something different every time I see it, in terms of it's almost like a companion going, what do you need? How can I help you? You know, in terms of the conversation and the thought process that the film really throws up. Nick, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay, please, because I'm
massively struggling.
I'm really interested in not what the seed for the thought, what the story was, but kind of what your intention was of what you wanted to write about and what you wanted the story to kind of tell in a way.
Yeah. The good thing about you've all seen it, so I can talk pretty openly about what happens. I mean, I wanted, the sort of initial idea, I suppose, was about wanting to write about someone who was going to die, but not do it in a way which was just tragic, or which the fact that they were ill would kind of tonally overwhelm the film. And so that led me to go, I suppose, could you do it? Could you find a form or a structure that would mean it would almost feel like a celebration of that person's life and a celebration of their relationship? So you could hold the tone of the sadness, of the grief and the tragedy and all that stuff, but you could also hopefully have lots of silly stuff as well, which is sort of just as important as the really sad stuff. So that was the idea, I guess, that led to the shape on the page that was going sort of past, birth, present tense,
And you sent it to John, I believe, as well.
Sent him a text, I think, and he said, "Who is this and how did you get my number? Please never call again." No, sent a text. We great, get out of my DMs. We met and chatted about it, and I'm trying to remember. It was it was a lovely lunch, lovely chat, and we'd worked together before. We'd done a play. And so I knew John well, loved his work, knew how he works with actors, and I guess above all else I had really tried to write sort of two great roles and knew that John would see that, relish that, would kind of love that. It was quite, anyway.
When you get given a script, you know, in terms of with someone that you've worked with in the past, you kind of going in there with trying to just go in there with a blank mind and not any kind of preconceived notion of, you know, had Nick kind of given you any indication as to what thematically the script was, or was it kind of going in?
It was a very Nick Payne text, which was, you're going to receive a script tomorrow, and if you'd like to read it, that'd be great. But if you don't want to read it, that's completely fine by me. Either way, it'd be lovely to see you soon. It's like, why would I not want to read your script? But anyway, you know. So I read it without any preconceptions. I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And the structure didn't surprise me necessarily, because knowing Nick's work and knowing what he's interested in. But I'd say the very first reading, I remember it really vividly, the first sort of 40, 50 pages, it almost felt too sad. I was almost like, oof, this is really... And then I got to the birth scene, and I was like, oh my God, no, I got it now. And then I suddenly understood the sort of... toggling between tones, I guess, and the whole absurdity that underpins that scene, and the hysterical humor. I mean, he's a great writer of character, obviously, and the dialogue was just so delicious. But the way that scene then sort of crested into something really kind of profound and beautiful and very simple. And I just loved, and it's true that of a lot of Nick's writing, I think, is the way in which he will take the stuff of everyday life, like divorce, falling in love, choice to have a baby or not have a baby, dealing with mortality. And in real life, that is many people's dull, unpoetic reality, right? And he'll find a way of suggesting something epic within it. And of course, all of those things to the people who are experiencing them are profoundly important. And that felt like the task of the film, is that if one could kind of catch the tail of that emotion, as it were, you'd have a chance of making something contemporary and English and beautifully acted, and utterly relatable to a huge number of people. It felt like a very particular mix.
Does that make it more difficult as a director in terms of that you are really tapping into such truth for people and such emotion for people, both in terms of the characters that we're watching, but, you know, everybody in this room has related to something within this story, whether it's the falling in love, whether it's trying to be reminded about, you know, let's live the best that we can for the time that we have, or, you know, whatever that might be. And so it's almost kind of such a, on paper, a simple ask, but as a director, you've got to make that kind of really count and resonate and connect with the audience. Such a random question, but how do you do that? Is you know, because it's a lot of it relies on this fantastic relationship and connection that we have with these characters, but also we're meeting them before they fall in love and before that's there, so we've got to connect with them as well. Talk to me a little bit about, you know, coming in with that script and with your other heads of departments in terms of how you would keep it simple but so powerful.
Well, I mean, the answer to your question is, I do remember at the point deciding that the film would like to double down and then triple double down, if there's such a thing, on the truthfulness with the acting, and that was it. Absolutely go for broke on that, and not be clever in a way with the filmmaking. You know, that the filmmaking is very proud of what everybody did. Stuart Bentley shot it beautifully, and Alice Normington designed it beautifully, but it's largely invisible, and it's allowing you to see into the lives of the characters. And I guess the jumping time frames was the biggest sort of narrative challenge in a way. There was a bunch of concern around whether people would follow it, and whether it not working would in post necessitate it being ironed out. And so I was adamant that we wouldn't be using title cards and other time cards, nor that we would shoot the different time frames in color coding or anything of the sort. That actually, for me, it was very important that actually the three time frames looked and felt similar, right, in key ways, in order that once you get past the point of difficulty with the film, that all their realities become one reality. You just flow between them. That was the aim, was that somewhere halfway through the film, the form, which is playful, it's not meant to be difficult, would just land into an audience lap and it would become pleasurable. And, you know, how do we work with the departments? With a spreadsheet, literally. I mean, every single story day had, you know, how much wallpaper is on the wall, how much costume has Andrew got at this point, what are the LPs, you know, what chef whites, I mean, and there are two actors who are really specific about what they wear, but they plugged into that. But it meant every department had to feed into that story day's stack of information in order for an audience to be able to inhale everything visually without being told, oh, now it's 2021. It just had to be invisible. So,
but I think that's what's so brilliant about it. And as an audience member, it almost kind of takes you to those moments yourself where, you know, something flicks up a memory. So you suddenly jump back to that memory of that moment and stuff. And that's what it feels like. It feels so natural for the characters to be, you know, going back to those moments in the situation that they're in. Florence, congratulations. Oh my God, what a performance. It's so brilliant. There's an amazing commitment to kind of how you've told this story. There are so many scenes that I could talk about, and I really want to talk about the head shaving scene, if you don't mind, because that was done in real time, I believe. A lot of panic going on around with everybody, but you were so committed to that, and that was really you. Kind of was like, this is how I'm doing it. Talk to me about coming into this character and why and how you wanted to make this commitment to how you told her story.
So originally it wasn't going to happen. I didn't even think I knew about it because my schedule, you know, when movies ask your availability, if you're not free, it doesn't really go much further. And one of my movies pushed by exactly the same amount of time that this movie needed to shoot. And the day that the movie got pushed, my agent sent me the script to We Live in Time, and she said, I couldn't send you this before because I knew it would just break your heart too much, but now you've got time. Read it now, and I think you should do it. And I always do this thing where I tell myself that when I have breaks, I'm going to actually rest and I'm going to break. And I'm really going to feed myself and I'm going to sleep and I'm really going to catch up on rest. And the moment there's always a gap, I'm like, wow, this amazing movie just popped up. And I read it and I was like, well, I guess that break went out the window. I am going to do this. And literally, I think that week me and you had lunch. And my feeling about the head shaving scene was, I don't know, I've always been in the belief that like I lend my whole body to characters. Mm-hmm. And when my characters are feeling grief, I feel grief, even if I haven't felt grief in that way. And it does have an emotional toll on every actor that is like holding the weight of what they're doing. And so whenever I read something that's affecting them or their body or their mindset, I have to accept that as that's something I'm going to step into. With something like shaving your head for a story like this, that is a hugely sensitive storyline that is, if done right, going to affect people. There was never a question of whether I would or wouldn't. That's just what the character requires, and what an honour it would be, if done beautifully, like it read in the script, to be a part of that and actually not have a memory that's associated with a sickness that is so scary be something that is scary. It can be a moment that they both face and that they can make a memory of with their daughter. And it doesn't have to be this thing that is taken away from you, but that you can be in charge of the one thing that you can be in charge of. And I really got that from that scene, and I really got it from what those characters were doing with their child, that it never made me nervous. And I think that's what was really interesting. The closer and closer we got, everybody kept on asking me, how do I feel? Do I still want to do it? Yeah. Am I okay? And I was just like, what we're going to do in that scene is going to be real life. And you can't make a mistake. You can't fuck it up. Mm-hmm. It just is what it is. And what an amazing thing to shoot in real time with a child that doesn't really care. You know, she's just having a great time and pretending to be a chicken. And we got some really beautiful moments of her and her just like beautiful honesty coming from a child. And when she's looking at me, and she came and had a cuddle. She started stroking my hair and she just looked at me. She went, "You're beautiful." And like, no one asked her to say that. It was really, really quite magic what was happening to everybody in that moment.
What's also magic is the chemistry with you, Mr. Weetabix, which I'm always going to refer to him from now and forever on. But that's kind of, when you're casting people in roles that require this kind of, intensity, but also kind of listening, growth, change. That's one of the things I love about the film, is how you allow your characters to change their mind about things, to learn from each other, or for the situation to allow them to change and to move on, from the script and from how you've directed that. But talk to me a little bit about working with Florence and Andrew. And you take a risk, I guess, as a director when you cast people. Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not. This just felt, fitted in with that whole idea of the realness of the story and the characters.
It's always a risk. You always go off a cliff. But the thing I was pretty sure about going into it, and that you didn't know each other, so it's not like no.
We met when we presented the award at the Oscars. That was the first time we met.
Shut up! Yeah. Oh my God! I thought you'd at least.
No, so they met in front of the world.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Right, but I knew they were both very specifically cast and very well cast. So they were both really right for aspects of those roles, and that there was an exciting horizon for each of them as actors. That for Andrew, he's very comfortable emotionally, and I knew he had a very direct relationship with his grief, and actually there was a level of physical humor in the role, and the marriage of all of those things I thought might be in a sweet spot of something that he'd want to do. And Florence had played so many, and vividly played some very, very powerful women. And I thought that that would illuminate that side of Alma, and that there would be a great opportunity for it to show the full extent of her acting chops and the vulnerability and the fear of facing what you had to face. But you're right, you know, we rehearsed for 2 weeks, and that was really all about letting them, they don't need much teaching, let's face it, right? Letting them spot that the film was going to happen in their eye line, and that it was about what was between them. And I think there were moments in day 2 where it was already beginning to fly, and you know, I was trying to hold them back from it emotionally, because you never want to rehearse the emotion when you're rehearsing. It's just like studying a map and looking up at a mountain. And that was really thrilling. And it grew and grew from there, really, you know. And then the job became about sort of creating a set that they would walk onto, which was quiet, literally, and was nothing in their eye line, and that the camera would have as least a sort of interfering presence as possible, so that the scene, the ideal thing is that they would walk in and the scene would be inevitable. They'd just tumble into the scene, and pretty quickly, with each of them, we didn't do a huge number of takes. I mean, you know, take 1, you're off to the races with them. So it was thrilling.
Yeah, it's also, I think the whole idea of accepting roles like this is extra terrifying, because she's certainly the closest to me.
Yeah.
She sounds like me. I really think she looks like me. And she's a woman that I know. There are elements of me in there. I know that I say this about every character. They are, you know, that all of my characters are based on people that I do take inspiration from, all the women I know. But she's someone that I could be mates with in London, go to the pub with, deal with situations that women my age and her age are dealing with and having to look into. And that's really, really scary, because even though it sounds easy, because you go, oh, well, I know that, and that's very similar to who I am, and I guess that's going to be really easy to really, you know, give that language a good go. You then have to tap into the fact that you're now going to really bring in your own personal feelings and emotions and stories, and so to do that with someone that was just as willing that's the only way that this movie can be made in the way that it has been. That's the reason why it hurts and it makes you laugh so much, is because you're watching, I guess, 2 people that are really willing to be unbelievably bare and raw with each other. And I would never have been able. I couldn't have done this without him. Like, we pushed each other every single day to be better.
Yeah.
And there was a huge amount of respect and a huge amount of understanding of what the other person was going to do that day. And I remember on one of the days where I had quite a fair bit of the lifting in a scene, and he was like my sports partner. He was like, whatever I needed before the take, he's got it. He was keeping the room quiet. He was asking me if I wanted to go for it. Do I need to go through, like, you know, it was like having someone that was aware that I needed to have a bit more energy now. Yeah. And he, you know, we were both like that. We were both very considerate and caring of what the other person was going to go through. And so it just meant that energy was, yes, it was on camera, but the respect for the craft was the energy that we were really relying on from each other that got the performances that we gave.
And that, I guess, part of that conversation as well between you both was about that tone as well that the film does so brilliantly, you know, of these are kind of heavy subjects, but the injection of comedy in those moments is so perfectly timed and so
needed,
beautifully executed, you know, from, you know, the birth scene as well, just those kind of like those 2 poor people in the background. And like, but that was, I heard you talking about that scene of kind of, you know, at moments kind of going, you know, if it was going a bit kind of serious, to kind of inject that kind of comedy and having that collaborative relationship with your actors to kind of, you know, know we need it to be a bit lighter, or, you know,
it's
finding
only
that
reminding somebody of something. Do you know what I mean? Because Nick has written this really rich scene, and of course the emotion that they were plowing into incredibly was very, very powerful. And yeah, it was the easiest thing in the world to point out that once in a while that there was a joke in the middle of the scene and to not miss it. And you could see the glint in their eye go, oh, great, I'm going to do that and swing off a trapeze the next time. And they're doing everything and being funny in a way that actors love to do, you know. Or the opposite of that was when we were doing the big kitchen scene, the big argument. And in a way, again, the emotion really sort of washed up into the room so quickly in that scene. And I think I had kind of only one note, which is I just need to hear the argument a tiny bit more. Like, what are you arguing about underneath it? And then we're like, you know, and then that comes up like a skeleton out of the scene. So, you know, your job is to say nothing until something needs to be said with the level of work that was going on. I mean...
How much do you think about like backstory or more of her and him that we don't see on screen? So, you know, we arrive at these people at this moment, but they've got a lifetime that they've lived up to this moment and things that we get little kind of flickers of and things. Is that anything? Is that something?
I know lots of people that do that, and it's really important. I do it. I can do it. It's not something that I need to do before I go to work. But it's always helpful to understand where they came from. I think specifically with her, I did it a bit because she's already on her journey. They both are, but like, she's successful, she's young, she's opened a restaurant. Part of the reason why they have that first initial argument when he says, do you want to talk about kids, is like, that's it. She's got her direction and she knows where she's going. And so it's, for moments like that, for massive pillars of this character's personality and arguments, it was crucial for me to have some idea of, like, I guess, fleshing out her past. But I also think, like, everything was on the page. Everything was in the script. Everything was on the page. Everything about these characters was just as delicious to read as it was to do. I honestly, when we finished filming, I remember saying to Andrew, like, I don't need to watch the movie. I'm really okay with the experience. It was just so magic, and reading the script was so magic, and I kind of didn't want that bubble to be burst. I didn't want to watch an edit and maybe it's not the way that it was. Like, I was just really happy with what that movie had taught me and what that script had done for me and the crew. And that's, like, very rare. And that's because it was there. Yeah. We just had to slot ourselves in and I suppose just, like, shimmy around, bring them to life. But it was already a beautiful script.
Yeah. Was there much music in the script, Nick? Did you write music into the script?
No, I don't think I did. I mean, I listen to a lot of music when I'm writing, but no, I don't.
Great choice in Bryce Dessner, by the way, for the score. Amazing choice. And we've got to open up to audience questions. Wow. That is so great. I'm going to start there, if that's okay. If we can pass there. Go back one. There we go. Have we got a mic on this side as well? Yeah, if we can get the next one down here so that we can flip-flop. Hello, what's your question?
Hello, this is my third time watching the film. I love it, and I feel like
been released yet? Have you pirated it?
No.
She filmed it.
Yeah, it's all on my phone. I'm sorry. No. I love the film very much. Obviously, I have a question about the food, Nick. I just wondered if there was a reason, like, why you chose food over anything else as, like, such a big theme and cooking, and why it's Almut's obsession. And then, Florence, did you feel more connected to the character because of food? I know obviously you're a big fan of cooking, so yeah, I just wondered about the food.
There's a really boring answer, which is I felt like I need, I'm sure will be a thrill to everyone. It slightly came because I really wanted the character to have a sort of vocation that was kind of an obsession, and that's where she could manifest her ambition. But obviously I really wanted something physical, not something, sort of like internal and intellectual. I didn't want it to be a sport. So then I don't know why, my brain just sort of whittled it down to food. And then I was like, but chefing in and of itself isn't quite enough. And then then I started emailing chefs and saying, can I talk to you about your job? And I met a guy who had competed in the Bocuse d'Or, and I'd never heard of it. and I thought it was just God love it, but I thought it was pretty weird. And it was like, you know, the cooking Olympics. And then I watched a bunch of documentaries and was like, it's bananas. And I spoke to a couple of chefs, UK chefs who have been in Bocuse d'Or, Team UK or whatever. And they took it so seriously, you know, as they should. And so it was about the character, and then you just do that thing where you sort of follow the trail until you find something where you go, yeah, I don't think I've seen that. And also then it was things like her family could be there because they have this huge audience. And I was like, okay, great. It's not a sort of closed off thing that she does. And I found that a lot of chefs are also, or not a lot, but enough that I thought, oh, there's something in there. They were kind of athletes as well. In like a lot of chefs compete in marathons. They were sort of telling me, and I thought, okay, so there's like a sort of sporting background, and so it was the ambition of the character and trying to find a way to dramatize that was kind of weird and idiosyncratic. You know, in the kind of argument scene. I love it when Florence says, I'm in training for the Bocuse d'Or. And you think, yeah, in what universe is that a revelation? But it's like, I love that it's weird, funny, and really heartbreaking for him to hear it. So it felt like it sort of gave us all the levels to tell the story, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a foodie family. I grew up working in my dad's restaurants. All of the siblings did, and so I don't understand it to that extent, but I understand the businesses and I understand how stressful they are, and I understand that it's a never-ending job. Like, it never finishes, and it only finishes when you eventually close it. And so there's this weird addiction with success in it, because it can't really go much further than when you're brilliant. So it takes a very specific type of brain to, well, I mean, it's her, isn't it? We watch it, but that definitely was really lovely to read and to recognise and go, like, I know that ambitious person. Partly my dad is that ambitious, and it was just really exciting to make a movie about food. I've always been passionate about food. I, did a series of so many videos on Instagram, really promoting my love of food. And it's really important that, weirdly, that everybody actually is allowed to enjoy food. I have a lot of young female followers, and me really getting mad and excited about food has done so much for girls actually being able to enjoy pasta, which is just so strange, but it does. So for me, reading a movie about this woman that is passionate about feeding people and passionate about making beautiful food from organic vegetables and doing it right and doing it with so much passion and ambition, just was like, yeah, that's great. That's a message that I want out there.
I've started using 2 bowls to crack my eggs. Yeah, totally. Have we got the microphone here with someone? Hello. Hi.
Okay, first off, I'll try and do it without crying. Thank you so much. I lost my best friend to cancer back in October, and this is such a beautiful film to not just show the big moments, but the small moments as well. So thank you to all of you individually for just creating something so beautiful and so special. For, I guess, all of you, but specifically for Florence, was there, when this came across your desk, was there that one line or that one scene that went like, she's mine? This is a character for me. That line, it was the first thing I said to my friends. I was like, I don't want to just be someone's dead mom, is such a beautifully tragic line that I think a lot of women can really, really connect with. So was there a line or a scene, and for both of you, that just went, we need to make this needs to happen?
Firstly, I'm really sorry to hear about your friend, and so recent as well. I'm very, very sorry to hear about that. Thank you for watching our movie, despite that. I appreciate it hugely about what you said. Yes, there are a few lines. That line, I don't want to be someone's dead fucking mum, is heartbreaking, because I think up until that point we watch her and quite judgingly, as an audience, I did, we judge her for being a bad mum because she's done this thing instead of trying to save as much time, which is, it's a complicated situation. But I think that line finally, it just sucks you back into allowing her to be her. Like she is a mum. She's also her own person who also has her own dreams and her own aspirations. And she can be both. She can be a great mum and she can also want to achieve the things that she's always wanted to achieve. And that, I remember reading that line and going, oh, fuck, I can't wait to say that line, but that's going to be really, really hard. And another one was when they have the argument in the kitchen when they're younger and he asks about kids. And she says, fuck off. and I kind of think, fuck off for even asking. It's so on me. I would never react like that in a situation to anyone that I'm with. But I just kind of loved the idea that she didn't really know what to say. Like she was just so totally pissed off that someone was even making her consider something out of her timeline. And I just loved it because she's, totally in the wrong and totally rude. And I actually had a chat with my mum about it. She was so angry when she watched it. She was like, and you're just so rude to him. I was like, well, it's not me, it's her. And she was like, he was only asking you for kids. And I was like, I know, but Mum, that's the point, is that she's irritated. And I was like, well, there you go. Yeah, she is so rude, but I kind of get it. I liked the spice. And I was really excited about saying that line too. So those two lines that say fuck in them.
John, what about for you?
Well, the birth scene, right? There's a lot of lines in that, right? But I would say in the scene that Florence is talking about, in that scene, I always loved the moment and love in the film when Florence looks at him and goes, "What the fuck are we talking about?" Yes. And he goes, I would rather have an awkward conversation now, right, rather than in 20 years' time. But when he says, there's a very real danger that I'm about to fall in love with you, right? It's a great line, isn't it? It's because the kid's terrified. I say kid, he's a grown man. But the guy's terrified. And he's trying to manage something that's completely already, he's done for, he's fucked. I mean, he already has it's the horse is well and truly left that stable. But he's trying to see if there's maybe a way out of it. And that's what I love about Nick's writing, is that it just is working forwards and backwards. The levels in it are beautiful. And it's scary for both of them. And I just love the way in which he manufactures scenes where, in a way, there's no baddie in it, right? Time, maybe the illness, but there isn't a baddie. I mean, they're two people who love each other, and when they argue, they're just upsetting each other. And they're pulling in slightly different directions to the same end, So, yeah, I would think, I love that moment every time it happens, and the fact that it's profoundly romantic and it winds up with the slam of a door. It's kind of amazing,
I love every time they argue. I think it's so full of love, and they really just want to. Yeah, it's real. Yeah, it is. It's like it's real, and it was great doing it because we matched each other in energy. It was fun. It was like a real argument was happening. Yeah.
And also another great line. Now that we're on the subject, right? Is sorry, have we met? Oh, yes. No, sorry. I'm the person who ran you over. It's pretty great.
Where's my underwear?
Anyway, exactly. That's a great. Where's my underwear? Classic line. Come on, how did I forget that?
So many. We've got time for one more question. I'm going to go to the man in the middle down here, if that's okay. No pressure. Better be a good one.
My name's Rakib. Lovely to meet you guys. But firstly, thank you for making this film. It's actually my third time watching it as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody's like hat-tricked the film.
It's like,
and it
I
keeps
love
on
it.
getting
That's
better.
great.
So my question was for Florence. As Edith mentioned before, the chemistry between you and Andrew is undeniably incredible. And I noticed that you guys were acting in your natural accents. So I was wondering, how was it with the preparation, and how did it feel? Because with a touching film like this, it just felt like, it didn't feel like two actors acting. It felt like two just real people. And John, what was the creative decision behind like letting them act in their normal accents?
How did I feel? I was so excited. I haven't done my accent in a long, long time, probably since Little Drummer Girl. And I don't know, there's something very, again, it goes back down to the writing. It just felt like an extension, you know, like put ourselves in that situation and speak. And that is a huge part of why those characters feel so natural together, I guess, as well, is because it's us talking, connecting, creating that chemistry, and having very, very beautifully written scenes that do feel like if you were to walk past a couple in a coffee shop, that's how they could be talking. And yeah, I've actually been a bit worried for a few years about how it would feel acting in my own accent again, because I just don't hear it anymore. And I've always wondered if when I do it, I'll recognise myself acting. Like, that's not how I say that word. But actually, I was really surprised that it was so smooth. The whole thing felt so smooth, and that is just completely down to great script, great director, and a fantastic actor that it was so natural to act with him, so easy. And we were so excited to get to work with each other each day. I was so excited to be with Tobias. Every day I'd wake up, be like, okay, I'm going to see Andrew, and then I get to be on set with Tobias. It was amazing, but that's because of what he did. He brought a whole character alive. It was really, really wonderful.
Was there ever any question about accents and them?
No, I think part of what was thrilling about having them both was that actually, why would you? I mean, it's a piece which relies on almost a degree of artlessness in the acting, that it's about allowing those characters to be very close to them, and that it was a great sort of fresh gesture for them both to come home in a way, you know, having done so many great roles abroad. So no, it was never discussed that it would be anything other than close to themselves. I mean, yeah.
I could chat to you for hours about your wonderful, wonderful film. I'm slightly jealous that you've all seen it 3 times, most of you in the audience as well. Congratulations. I think you can recognise from people's reactions tonight just how powerful, this wonderful project is. Congratulations, Nick, on your fantastic writing. John, on a brilliant film, and Florence, wonderful, wonderful performance.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks for
Thank you very
coming.
much.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!